Hello everyone, Brad here again. Doing really, I guess, part two of my lumber kiln build. I did one on the foundation, which I called part one, but not very popular. I don't think maybe 200 people watched it. So I thought it'd be a little bit more interesting just to go around, look at the finished product. And there's really, as far as framing it, there's really nothing special. There's just a couple little things, and I'll maybe throw those in at the end that you gotta look out for. But other than that, it's just standard framing. So I didn't think I'd go over that. I'll just go around, show you guys everything about it and how I put it together and how I'm doing the controls. You can see it's here in the background. So anyway, we'll get started and we'll take a look around. So here's the outside of the kiln disguised as a garden shed. So as you can tell, I live in a neighborhood, so I kind of want to make something that looked good and kind of blended into everything. So here's just the front. Around to the side. All right, we'll go here and we'll take a little look on the inside. This is actually my first charge I've put into the kiln. So here's a stack of, this is some lumber I've had, man, probably some of it 10 years. So Notadina stack is kind of a mismatch of a lot of different thicknesses. I built this thing pretty much just like the manual for the L53 from Nyle talks about. I made it to the maximum dimensions. So on the inside, it's 7 feet tall, 8 feet wide, and 13 foot long. And that way I can dry 12-foot lumber. And I can do a stack 4 feet wide. You want 18 inches over here, and then you want at least 12 inches between your dehumidifier unit and your stack. So as you can see here, up here in the ceiling, I've got 4 500-watt halogen lights. Just got 2 of them on right now. And this is to add extra heat. And then I have these 4 Orion fans I got from DigiKey. Each one of those fans is about 900 CFM. And you do have 2 fans built into the Nyle unit, but everybody said that you really need a lot more air than what that unit can put out. And then the Nyle unit comes with the powered fan here, and this is for your vent. And one thing about in the manual that is wrong is it tells you that the intake vent is here, but actually that's the exhaust vent, which is where the powered fan goes. And I actually turned mine around backwards from the way they ship it, and it works a whole lot better. It sticks more compactly to the wall this way. And then back here in the far corner, you can see on the wall is the vent for the intake. So we also have here have a water bottle for our wet bulb, and we have our dry bulb sensor. And one thing that I've added is I actually found this on Amazon. It's just a temperature unit. I'm just using a block here, and I'm be sure that I'm going to get the interior of the wood up to sterilization temperature, which is 133 degrees F. So I've got this temperature sensor in here, and it goes back to my control box, so I can keep track of that. We'll walk around here. So this is a unit I got from Lignomat, and this is a station plate here, and I've actually modified it, and it comes with a 4-station plate, but it just uses some stainless steel bolts, some little Teflon, and stainless steel washers. And I just added onto it because there was room to make it where I can have 8 sensors. So these are my moisture control. So they're in 4 different places right now. I've only got 4 wires. There's pins that I've inserted, and you got to drill a 5/32 hole, and you insert the pins. And you can do different depths to get the core temperature or surface temperature. So I've got these 4 sensors running from the stack so that I can monitor moisture content from outside in my control box. And of course, this is your drain here for the condensation that runs outside. And for the walls, I've painted the walls with mobile home aluminum roofing paint. And that's what they talk about to do in the manual. In the walls, I have 2-inch rigid foam. Here's just a piece. That's over top of the studs, and in the studs I have fiberglass insulation, which is R15. So in the walls I've got R25, and then this is over the foam board you put plastic, and then over top of that I have this 1/2-inch CDX plywood. And then the ceiling I did R19 and still the 2-inch foam board on top of that. And then I actually went back in there and laid some R13 bats crossways on top of the R19 in the attic. So in the ceiling I've got, what is that, R42. So R25 in the walls, R42 in the ceiling. Okay, I got everything baffled up here, you can see. I better not forget my cheer wine there. But I've got this, and then I've got some pieces down here to close off all the air that I can. And if you notice my baffles, what I did, I made this wood frame here, and this is just some fairly inexpensive 1-inch polystyrene foam, and I just put a piece of conduit here, and then I just put some 1-hole conduit straps with some little spacers, and then I just hook this on here, and it seems to be working pretty good. It's a little awkward to move. I got them in 2 halves. I first tried it in 1 half, and that was impossible. But it's not bad. It's a little awkward to move them, but it works pretty good. Hopefully, we'll see. As you can see now, my kiln's empty. I finished that first load, and I just wanted to go over a couple of important things that I learned in that first load that I didn't show. First off, the big one was that when I got my baffle in, as you can see the baffles over here, that worked great, but I wasn't getting any airflow through the stack. And what I had done wrong was, you know, I had the baffles coming across here, across the top of the wood, but the fans were just blowing air and basically just running it in a circle in the ceiling. The air wasn't traveling across the baffles through the stack. I had borrowed a friend of mine's little wind meter and had put it in front of the stack, and there was nothing coming through the stack. So what I did was I went in here, cut a hole in the bottom, which is pulling air below and through the stack underneath the large baffle. So I put this shroud up here, as you can see, and it pulls this air through. I've got a little 45-degree I built in there, and now the fan, all 4 fans are pulling the air from the through the stack up through the top and back around, making a circle. And when I did this and put the wind meter in there, I was really getting good airflow through the stack. So that was the biggest mistake that I had made. One other thing, I haven't tried this, but you know, after I did that, I was reading too, I noticed I was getting a little bit, actually getting better airflow at the bottom of the stack than at the top of the stack. So I added in this 45 up here to let the air kind of not hit that corner. So now the air will hopefully flow with that 45 and go down a little better, and I won't lose any air velocity that way. I did this from the get-go. I read on the forestry forum, a lot of people had talked about this, but with the Nyle unit, you know, here's your intake that pulls the air through your coils. And what I did was I ordered an extra filter, and I drilled these large holes here in the bottom. So what this allows it to do is it pulls air up from underneath, because a lot of people said that you wouldn't get a good flow through the bottom of the stack without having the air pulling up this way too. And I really think it did make a big difference. Here's my control panel housing that I have for the Nyle unit and my controls. And you can't let the Nyle unit get below freezing, so I built this little shroud around it. And I just put some hinges up here on top, just some little pins to hold it open. I've got 2-inch foam in the top and 1-inch foam around the inside. And I actually have a piece of 1-inch foam that I put underneath when it's really cold. But then I just got this, this is an underbody toolbox. I got mine from Tractor Supply, but a lot of other places make them. And this is just where I house everything, and everything's metal, so in case anything, what did catch fire, it's going to be contained in this completely metal housing. Here's the whole control panel. Of course, this is the Nyle unit here. And this is what controls the inside dehumidifier unit, and the wet bulb and dry bulb probes come back to this. And then this also controls your power vent fan. So I actually added in a little extra thing here for the vent fan, so I can turn it off and on. You know, I got it set on auto, but I can also set it on manual so that I can just let it run all the time. In the first part of the video, I talked about the temperature that I use to know the temperature of the wood. So this is my probe there that goes into the block of wood that I showed you earlier that reads the temperature. Okay, now here is the box, the lignomat box that comes from the station plate that they call it inside, and this is from the probes in the wood, it goes to the station plate, then into this box. And so I can take my Ligno K meter, I hook it into this right here with my cable, and up to 12 stations. I've got 8 stations, but I only have 7 wires, so I can just dial in and check in all 7 places and read this all remotely from outside without having to go into the kiln. As you can see, I got a little light bulb here. This is just for heat so that I can not get my box below freezing. And I have a control unit here. This is just controlling this light bulb to turn it off and on. I've got it set at 40 degrees. Then I can flip it here and then manually, that way this is always hot and I can just turn this bulb on if I'm in here working it in the dark. So here, if you can see up here at the top, I have these relays, and this is what works my lamps inside. I have the inners and the outers set up. And you know, in this position, they're an automatic, and so they're just controlled from the Nyle unit. Because the way the Nyle unit works, it won't turn the heat on that's built into the dehumidifier unit if the compressor's on. It'll just draw too much amperage. So I wired this in with some help from Nyle. They told me where to do this. So this is wired in directly. So if the compressor's running and it does call for heat, the Nyle unit will automatically go through this relay and turn the lights on in the ceiling to add heat while the compressor's running. And I also like these relays because you actually have the option here to manually turn on the lights up there. So if I switch it back over here and then switch this here, and you'll notice that my lights come on. And I have these in here just an indicator, so that means that the heat lamps are running. So then I also have the fans are controlled here. I have this for the inner fans, you can hear them turn on, and then here is for the outer fans. And then this other control box just shows me, like, I have these lights wired in off the Nyle unit just to show me this is when the compressor comes on. And I don't have a humidifier system, but this will just tell me if this comes on, I know that the humidity is low. And then this just shows me if the vent does cut on, and this is if the unit heat cuts on, which is the strips inside the dehumidifier unit. So this box worked out pretty neatly to get everything in there, and got a pretty good amount of room to work. Okay, that wraps up this build. I got a couple of tips that I'll show you about the construction. I'll add it here on the end if you want to take a look at those if you're going to build one. But appreciate you guys watching, and please give me a like and a subscribe. Thanks. Okay, I'll just go over some of the framing details really quick, and there's really not a whole lot different than regular construction. I mean, really the only thing as far as the walls are concerned is just where you have, I'm gonna have 2-inch thick foam on top of the studs, and then I'm gonna have a piece of 1/2-inch plywood. So, you know, just in that case, I just added this, I turned this 1 2x4 sideways, and you know, I had this end up being extra wide here with the stud. And you know, that's going to allow, we want to get the 2-inch foam in there on both sides. That's going to still leave you room to nail in through the plywood. So that's really about the only thing with the construction is to keep in mind about how thick your walls are going to be. Okay, one thing that I'll show you is that I'm putting flashing down here around my concrete because, you know, I made the concrete about 1.5 inches wider than the framing on the outside. And then I plus have this 2-inch piece of insulation. So total about 3.5 inches. So I'm taking flashing and I'm going to run it down the wall and across and down. And if you look at all the flashing, every one of them say not to use it with pressure treated lumber, which of course my bottom plate is pressure treated lumber. So the only solution I found, I got this, I think it was a Trex brand tape that they use for decking. So I just bought that to cover up the pressure treated bottom plate. And I'll walk you around. I'll show you where I've done the flashing on this side. You can kind of see what I'm doing here. So I'm just running this up here 2 inches. Got a little bit of a slope on it and kind of going down into the dirt. And then I'll put my siding and come down across the top of this to seal it pretty well.